So nostalgia for me is about connecting with my past, understanding where I came from, and visiting and revisiting places that I remember as a young child or I heard about from the family. The house was built by my grandfather. He, with his brother, shipped in all the materials, the timber, the stone and everything else to put that together down through the lake to the house. So the house really is a monument in my mind to him and to what he set out to achieve for his family. So all of these trees, the ones you can see down here, are all planted by my grandfather, and it's like you sort of feel you're being drawn up to the house with this. But this particular one is huge. I mean, you can see how big they grow, you know, and the weight of the boughs crack there and everything. So it's it must be nearly 100 years old, if not more. But you know, it grows out and it's pushed the wall. This was a wall that my grandfather and his brother put down. So it's just so it's a monument to him, but it's a monument that's sort of showing its age. When you sort of walk along the wall, you realise it's all dry stone. There's no mortar between it. And oh, here it is. And then you look, and you catch a glimpse of something, and there's like a bottle inside the wall, you know, that's just been put in there for whatever reason, whether it was, you know, just something to prop the bit of stone up, or whether it was actually put there deliberately. But you don't want to move it because it was there, put there for a reason. So that's probably where it was taken. And you can see the flat stones over there. These are the ones here. So I don't know if you can see it, but there's one of my cousins there, and I think that's my dad, sporting a very fine vest. But there again, it could be also my uncle. So that's all. There's the original mosaics that were in there when they were built, just little blue tiles. And then over the years, people have painted over them. But they've stood the test of time, and that was all made by my uncle.
People who don't know this place and they walk up and go, oh my God, it's falling apart. But do you feel a certain way about it as you walk into this?
Yeah. I mean, this is where my mum grew up. You know, yeah, it now is a sad, empty place, but it still has lots and lots of memories. So the house was built in 1930. So prior to that, the family lived in this building, which when the house was built, this became an animal shed. So two of my aunts, my grandfather and my grandmother, all lived in here. So it's really quite evocative, really, to stand between the two. You know, you look in and there's wood and there's an old harness, there's stone, there's all the bits that went to make up. I mean, surprised if there's even a golf ball in there, so I don't know what that. But it's an old farm building that has a bit more of a history for my family than just simply a place to keep your animals. It just shows you that, you know, whatever you do, if you don't keep on top of managing the land and everything else, it'll take it over for you, which in some respects is really good. I think it's great that nature is coming back, but it makes you realise how things are just fleeting, really, you know. So this is the inside of the house, and yeah, it's a sad looking place, but you can see little sparkles of how my grandmother and grandfather and the family made it a beautiful home. Yeah, you look around and it's just things to remind me of my grandparents. And yeah, they look tired and old and destroyed in some cases, but you know, it's a place to come to be connected to them. But yeah, so this was where my mum and her 3 sisters and 3 brothers and her mum and dad all lived. I mean, it's still fairly robust despite, you know, it not being lived in for a couple of decades. But I don't feel, you know, I always feel happy to be back here. You know, it's a solid remembrance of the Irish family, but you look around and, you know, there's little things, there's pots and pans and stuff that it doesn't feel like it's just been left in the last, you know, couple of days, like sometimes you hear houses that are empty, and particularly in Ireland. But, you know, there's things in here that, you know, are part and parcel of what the family was all about. You know, that was my my uncle's walking stick. He had got an injury when he was with cattle and he injured his leg. But then you've got, you know, little plates and cups that would have gone back to my grandmother's time. Books and the odd picture. And over the years we've brought back things of family memories. So there's my mum's memory book from her funeral. Oh, sorry, not her memory book, but her funeral service. Just to bring her back home. But yeah, I've always, whenever I come in here, I always say hi, and sometimes I hope I hear something just to recognise that I'm here. But so that was, when they made it, that was actually a piece of rope made into a banister. But, you know, it's been worn away over time. But, you know, you feel like that's a good solid piece of workmanship, and clever as well. You know, time has taken its toll on this place, and you know, it just shows you that, you know, there's a cycle of life, and this is in perhaps its later years. You know, you feel that sense of presence, which, you know, I sometimes want, because I never met my grandfather. He died before I was born. And so, you know, and you just hear stories of the man, you know, things that defined him, like him rescuing my mum when she fell off a pontoon while they were building the house and into the sea, and he rescued her. So, you know, you get the sense of him being a strong and caring human being, and you know, a very talented person, because he built this house. But there's a room over here, which is a bedroom, and but it's filled with detritus and history, and, you know, there was no electricity or running water here, so everything was done by gas bottles or fire. But, you know, in the later years of my uncle's life, he probably struggled quite a lot because he wasn't brilliantly well. Very sad. But, you know, you never feel, or I never feel, that I'm ever in danger in here. I feel there's a presence of of all those generations. But I suppose when you come down to, is it nostalgic to look at these things? It's a feeling of connection. So you know, I may not have seen them put, you know, that there or this here or whatever, but I know that they did, and that makes you feel the sense of, you know, the place with them. I always remember this place. It wasn't like this before, but it's just like this wonderful framing of a really beautiful picture. Obviously those two branches now have grown in, but this was a sort of, a few decades ago I'd come here and just, in the summertime, and you'd just sit here and it would be like peace personified. I always thought maybe, you'd put a chair in here or something. Do you know what I mean? You'd put a piece of wood between the two trees and you'd just literally sit there and just think about it all, really. It's quite enlivening to be here, definitely. But it was always part of it. I as a child was always a bit fearful of going out on a boat. I remember one time when my father and I were here, and my uncle wanted to go out onto the island. Actually, no, he wanted to do some fishing. That was right. He was going to the island, but we were going to go fishing, and we were going to tow some lures behind the boat. But I remember looking at the boat, and to me there was more water in the boat than there was in the lake. So I was really fearful of it. I thought, I'm not going to get in there. It gives you that feeling of, you recognise the power of things, really, and you recognise that it's a dark and brooding, foreboding place. But, as I just said, sometimes it's the most beautiful and idyllic place. It's a bit of I don't know, it just seems polarised in my mind sometimes. But, yeah, the lake and lake house, they are, they feel worlds apart, but there certainly is a sense of, this is a really, it's a really beautiful place. When you look, it's actually, you sometimes you think, it'd be great to have a house where you're looking out over a beautiful vista and everything else. But the realism of it was that my grandfather built it in a place that was protected from the elements to some degree. So the view wasn't necessarily in his mind when he put it there. But when you see it like now, you look through and that's just in the right place, protected by those trees and everything else that he planted, or some of those he planted. So, you think it's really well thought out. And that makes, again, that's another thing, although I never met him, you realise that, he was a real, craftsman, somebody who thought a lot about what he wanted. So, it makes it feel all the more special. And I've never seen this view before. It's like the first time, and it's a bit mesmerising, really. As a kid, this would have been a lot easier to get to. I know, I would wander out, and you'd end up on one of these little rock faces up here, just sitting enjoying yourself. I remember one summer I didn't want to go home. You just sit there, and you just wait for you knew it was going to come where somebody was going to call you to go, but you didn't want to, so you'd sit there and enjoy that sunshine and just look at all this beautiful landscape and wish you were staying here. I think you just have to hold on to the memories of it, don't you? You just have to say it's about what you remember, because they won't ever, they won't fade. Even when we don't have, this isn't part of the family anymore, they'll still be talking about the lake, and we're talking about Grandad building the house and the memories of coming here for a summer.
Was today a nostalgic time?
Very much, yeah. Today was really it was very nostalgic. You get a chance to talk about it rather than just to wander around. Do you know what I mean? It was like I've been there before, and you literally just get on and clear a bit of patch of earth, or you do something else. This time around, it was actually going to some of those places and remembering it. So yeah, it really was nostalgic, because it means I haven't forgotten all those things. They're things that are still part of my memory of it. So I would, I think it worked really well. And in a way, it was, you feel, I wish my mum had been here to fill in some of the gaps, or my grandmother had been in there to say, tell us a few more stories, or or my uncle to either hide behind something or come out and talk about what it is. So, and doing that makes. I really had a chance to think about some of the things that, or talk about some of the things I only think about. Whenever I leave, and I've sort of, you take that last look at the house, and, you say I say goodbye. Of course I say goodbye to them. But, and then I turn and I'm walking out, and there's just a piece, just a place, I should say, where you stop and I look, and I just think it's beautifully framed, and if the sun's shining, it's just really soft, and there's lots of dappled shadows and things. But I just suddenly think to myself, do you know what, this is probably the view that my mum and my aunts would have had as they were leaving whether they were going to the shops or church, or even when they left to go to London to start their own journeys when they were in their teens and late teens. It's when you realise that walk has been done by generations of the family that you feel very connected, and I love walking down there. I always get part way down, I turn around, and part of me wants to see my grandma and my uncles waving goodbye and everything else, and the other part of me just, it sort of closes off the trip. And I think that's, so that always gets me.